Video, I'm going to be talking about my stance on abortion and why I have that stance or hold that position. First, you're going to start off with some of the most significant issues, such as rape. If a woman is raped, she should not have to have the child of that rape. That's like a reminder to her for the rest of her life as to what happened to her. Secondly, there are women who have a very high chance of dying during pregnancy, and when there's a high chance of the woman dying, there's a high chance of the baby dying too. So if you made abortions illegal, there would be many people who have birth complications who would die along with their babies. And even if the baby didn't die, the fact that the mother died is pretty significant. And the third reason being that no one should be forced to do something with their own body that they don't want to do. When a woman has a baby, it permanently alters her reproductive organs in a way that is, you can't go back on it, you can't fix it. It's going to stay that way for the rest of her life. I mean, this is the same thing I would say with circumcision, that it's wrong for the parents to circumcise their baby because it's the baby's choice. And maybe in the past, when we didn't have any access to showers, that might have been a good choice because, people going months and months without showers might have problems. But we're not designed to go months and months without showers. We don't have automatic bathing mechanisms like dogs and cats, so we have to bathe ourselves. I mean, when the baby's older, it wants to cut off part of its penis, it can do that, And in the same sense, I don't think a woman should be forced to have a baby that permanently alters her body and permanently affects her life for the rest of her life. She will now have to deal with something that if she doesn't care about that baby, if she doesn't love the baby or want the baby, it's just a burden. It's just a risk, a liability, a hazard. If you grow up in a house where your parents don't want you, they never wanted you to begin with. They are annoyed by the fact that they had to have you. They do not have the proper facilities to raise you. They do not have the wisdom necessary to raise and educate a child in ways that a school system will not do properly. Then they shouldn't have a kid. And of course, you could make these arguments for people who already don't have these facilities ready for raising a child but want to have a child. And I would say that they shouldn't have a child. But, that's a whole separate question. My point is that if the parent is not willing to raise the child, does not have the proper facilities or education to raise the child, then all it's going to do is bring another unwanted child into the world who might face abuse or just be raised in a household without love or proper education. And yeah, some of those kids might turn out alright, some of them might turn out fine, but we have enough people in the world. We have way more than enough people in the world. We don't need to be worrying about unborn fetuses being murdered. I mean, if you're going to say that killing a fetus is murder, yes, it is killing something, but in that sense, you're committing mass genocide every time you ejaculate, and you're murdering a life every time you have your period, because there's the potential for that sperm or egg to become a life. In the same sense that there's a potential for a fetus to become a life. You could argue that it's already a life, that's true, but that life, it can't sustain itself on its own. It can't even sustain itself as a baby outside of the womb would be able to do. And it's leeching off the life force of the mother in a way that permanently alters her body. So, if you were to make abortions illegal, you would be forcing many women to have a baby that they don't want. And that baby will either get raised in a home where it might be abused, or just unloved, or not properly educated, or it could be raised in the foster care system. And anyone who doesn't realize how bad the foster care system is, you need to do some research on it. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely not perfect. It's not the kind of thing that you would want a child to be raised in. And then there's the other point of it's someone's body, the mother's body. Until that baby has come out, or until that baby could be taken out and survive on its own. By on its own, I mean, have a heartbeat and breathe and stuff, not nurture itself, as we know babies cannot do that. Then, before that point, it should be up to the mother. It's the mother's choice. It's her body. We don't say that you can't cut your hair because your hair is a living thing. I guess technically it's dead after it comes out. But even to another extent where you could say, if you were to take some sort of medicine that would clear out your gut bacteria, you just killed a lot of creatures in there. That's murder, more or less. If you're considering killing a fetus to be murder, then that is also murder. It's not murdering a human, but it's still murder. But the life of a bacteria, I would say, is about equivalent to the life of a fetus up until that fetus can be taken out and survive on its own. And by that point, it's already pretty well developed. Not really a fetus anymore, it's more of a baby. And the idea that the government can control what you can do with your own body is appalling. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's even stupid for your job to be able to say that you have to cut your hair a certain way. Your hair should be well groomed and clean, well brushed. That's important. But your job shouldn't be able to say you have to have short hair unless you are in food preparation. And even then you can wear a hairnet. But your hair is not to a great extent as killing a baby. It's not really killing a baby because it's a fetus. I mean, you don't remember what it was like being in your mom's womb. That baby is not going to remember the pain that its spinal reflex will sense when it's torn out of the womb. And if you do force that woman to have the baby because you won't let her get an abortion, she will resent that for the rest of her life. And she'll look at her child as a symbol for that resentment. And that could be horrible for the raising of that child. That child could just have a horrible childhood growing up with someone who resents having them. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, this is murder, immoral, that kind of stuff. You could say it's, murder and immoral to have birth control, which I think is just completely stupid if you do, because then, like I said, you'd be committing mass genocide every time you ejaculate, or murdering an egg every time you have a period, because there is a potential for that to become a life form. And, as I stated, there are way too many people in the world. We are impacting the world in a serious way that even if we were to be wiped off the face of the planet, we would still permanently affect the ecosystem. If you were to remove all humans right now, the extinction wave that we have brought about would continue because of the trash that we've left in the environment, the damage that we've done to coral reefs, the damage that we've done to species and population in their environment, which affect other things in the ecosystem. I don't think people have any room talking about the murder of a fetus when we are murdering entire species by putting out trash or by actually intentionally killing them for their horns because we think it's some kind of medicine because we're so primitive and backwards thinking that we can't even come to realize with modern science that that's not a medicine. It really pisses me off when I hear people talking about how a woman should not be allowed to have an abortion because it's killing the baby. Well, you're permanently ruining that woman's life. If she does not want to have that baby, if she never wants to throughout the entire time that that kid is being raised, that is of detriment to that child and the woman. And unless you are willing to raise that child yourself, then you should not be pro-abortion. I mean, you should not be anti-abortion. You shouldn't be pro-life, as they call it. Whereas I would call it, it's not really pro-life because you're ruining someone's life by forcing them to have a baby that they don't want. And you're also possibly ruining the baby's life by forcing them to be raised in a home that doesn't love them or care about them.